In this question, 2.4 number 6, we're asked to use a graphing calculator to graph the equation in the standard viewing window. Now you can do this without using a graphing calculator by selecting 2 points. What we want to do is get the y by itself, and you can make a table of values, find 2 points. So to get the y by itself, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides of the equation, and that will give me 5y is equal to, now when I'm combining these two terms, on the right side of the equation, I write the x term first, negative 2x, and then I write the 10 as a plus 10. That's going to help me later on when I start to look at equations using the slope and the y-intercepts. The next thing I'm going to do is get the y by itself. You have to do that, especially if you're using a graphing calculator. You do that by dividing both sides by 5. So our equation, we're going to get y equals, when we divide both of these terms by 5, we get negative 2 over 5x plus 10 divided by 5, which is 2. When you're plugging this into a graphing calculator, you must put parentheses around that fraction in front of the x. So that will look like negative 2 over 5, parentheses, x plus 2. If you're doing this by hand, you can make a table of values. Plug in your x and your y. For example, if x is equal to 0, when you plug 0 into this equation for x and you simplify, 0 times this equals 0 plus 2, the y has to be 2. If we plug in another number such as 5, and I'm doing that so I don't have any fractions to worry about, plug in 5 for x, 5 times negative 2 over 5, the 5's will cancel out, and you get negative 2 plus 2, you get 0. So you can actually plot this by hand if you don't have a graphing calculator. But if you do, I'm going to show you what buttons to push on your calculator so that you will get the sketch. You can plug in 0, 2 is a point on the y-axis, and 5, 0 is a point on the x-axis. I apologize for my messy graph here, but those are the 2 points that you can use to sketch the line. What does this look like on the graphing calculator? What you want to do when you turn your calculator on is to press the y equals button. It's on the top left button. Now you want to check to make sure the plot 1, plot 2, plot 3, none of those are shaded. If they are shaded, you may end up with an error when you try to graph. If they are shaded, you would simply use the arrow and press enter to unshade it. Now what I did is I actually shaded it. You don't want to do that. But if it is shaded, use the arrow up and unshade it so that you have all of those that are cleared up there. And now you're ready to enter the equation. Y is equal to negative 2 over 5x plus 2. Put the fraction in parentheses. I use the parenthesis sign, and also you want to use this little negative sign here. Don't use the big minus sign. That's also going to cause an error. So use the little negative 2, little negative sign, 2, and then I use the division sign, 5, and close the parentheses. Negative 2/5. Now I'm going to use this button here to type in the x variable, and then I type in plus 2. Notice my equations y equals all of this, and there is already a y equals there. To graph this in the standard viewing window, you want to first, after you enter it in, you're going to press this zoom button on the top middle of your calculator. When you press the zoom, you're going to choose the standard zoom, which is number 6. You can simply type in 6 or scroll down and press enter. When I type in 6, it sets up my window to have a standard zoom, standard viewing window, which means it goes from negative 10 to positive 10 on the x-axis, negative 10 to positive 10 on the y-axis. When we compare this screen to my graph, you can see it's pretty close, definitely a lot neater than mine. Now also when we compare it to the the choices on the homework, we can see that this one looks most like choice C. Fantastic. Let's do number 7. Find the slope of the line. Okay, we can put our calculator away. Find the slope of the line containing the pair of points -9, -3, and 8, 3. You do need to know the slope formula to solve this. The slope formula is m equals y sub 1 minus y sub 2 divided by x sub 1 minus x sub 2. Now you can also see this written as y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You can use either one of these formulas as long as you're consistent. The first point here, -9, -3, that is actually your x sub 1 and your y sub 1, sorry. And the second point, 8, 3, is your x sub 2 and your y sub 2. So to find the slope, we're going to plug in those values. For y sub 1, my value is -3, minus y sub 2 is 3, and in the denominator, x sub 1, -9, minus x sub 2, which is 8. And you plug in those values, simplify the whole numerator and the whole denominator separately. -3 minus 3 in the numerator is -6. -9 minus 8 is -17. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so this can be written as 6 over 17. Let's let's check our answer. The answer is 6 divided by 17. Check. Nice work. Moving on to number 8. Number 8 is a lot like this one. We want to find the slope, if it exists, of the line containing the pair of points. Again, we're going to use the slope formula m, which is equal to y sub 1 minus y sub 2 divided by x sub 1 minus x sub 2. When we plug in those values, again, this is our x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, and y sub 2. Plug in those values into the formula. Y sub 1 is 6, minus y sub 2 is 6, divided by x sub 1, which is 9, minus x sub 2, which is -10. In the numerator, we get 6 minus 6, which is 0, divided by 9 minus a -10, that's the same thing as 19, and 0 divided by 19 is 0. Now, the slope of this line is 0, and you should see that if you have a 0 in the numerator, the slope is going to be 0. But if you have a 0 in the denominator, the slope is undefined. You cannot have a 0 in the denominator. Let's look at the next example, number 9. Find the slope of the line containing the line satisfying the conditions. It's a vertical line through the point 10, -7. Now, if you recall, a vertical line has an undefined slope. You can answer that question automatically. But if you forget, this is something that you can do. Graph the line with points 10, -7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, -7. That's one of the points. It's on this line, 10, -7. If it's a vertical line, it is going to go right through the x-axis right here at this point, which is 10, 0. You can use the slope between those 2 points to determine the slope of the line. And if you use the slope, which is y sub 1 minus y sub 2 over x sub 1 minus x sub 2, using those 2 points, you would get 0 minus a -7 over 10 minus 10. You would end up with 7 over 0. Oh no, you can't do that. Anytime you have a number over 0, it is undefined. So this is undefined. Anytime you have a number divided by 0, that is undefined. Let's choose B and check our answer. Okay, now number 10, we're going to sketch the graph and find the slope of the line. In this case, you should start to begin recognizing slope and y-intercept form of a line, and you can actually do this several ways. This is in the form of y equals mx plus b. M is equal to the slope of the line. And when we talk about slope, we use the words rise over run. The rise is simply how much you're moving up and down or down the graph, and the run is how far to the right or left. In this case, the slope is the number in front of the x, which is 4. Now we can write 4 as a fraction, 4 over 1. That's going to be our slope. The b is the y-intercept. The y-intercept. And this is the point where the graph is going to cross through the y-axis. In this case, our y-intercept is 5. Y equals 5 is the y-intercept. So to sketch this line, we're going to start at the y-intercept of positive 5. Then we're going to use a slope to get to another point that's on the line. The slope is 4, 1. These are both positive numbers. Positive slope, that means the graph is going to go up. So from this point, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, and make another dot. That's another point on the line. You could also go in the opposite direction. 4 over negative over 1 can also be written as negative 4 over negative 1. So that means from that y-intercept you can move down 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the left 1, and make a dot and connect those with a line, with the ruler. So that is how you can sketch using the slope and the y-intercept. If you ever forget the slope and y-intercept, you can also plot and make a table of values. For example, if you plug in 0, you get 5, and you plug in 1, you would get 9. So you would get those 2 points anyway. Let's check our answer, and that looks most like my question choice B. Good job.